Hello friends, welcome to Tarun IS. Today we will be discussing editorials from The Hindu of 11th of November 2022. So let's start with the editorial. Today's topic is about policing and you can relate it with your general studies paper 3, internal security, and you can also relate it with your another topic, that is security forces and their mandate. The source is The Hindu. Alright. So this is the article which I have taken from The Hindu, and the article has been written by the former CBI director R.K. Raghavan. So let's look into the views of the writer and what he wants to convey with respect to the policing in India, maintenance of law and order, and governance of the law situation. So recently, the Ministry of Home Affairs had convened a conference in the late October in the capital, which saw participation from the Union Home Minister and few Home Ministers, state Home Ministers and police chiefs. However, the West Bengal top or highest official did not attend this conference, citing preoccupation with the puja related issue. So according to the writer, this Delhi conference, it was a very important occasion for improving the quality of policing in the country through exchange of ideas, etc. So if you see that recently the government of India had also changed the IS central deputation rules, which became a reason for the conflict between the West Bengal government, which is led by the Trinamool Congress, and the Union government, where BJP is dominant. So even if we do not go into the politics of the matter, but we have to understand that this conflict between the state government and the union government, and these two governments are at the loggerhead always when it comes to the policing, when it comes to the central deputation of the IS and the IPS officers, etc., etc. So the writer wants to say that with such an important let me delete this. The writer wants to say, with such an important conference and the West Bengal's top officials that missed, that means it shows the lack of seriousness from the state government when it comes to the police reforms. So in India, police reforms, they are of utmost importance, and there are many aspects of the police reforms that we have to look into. The first one is the modernization of the police. The second is the prison reform. The third is the training of the police personnel, etc., etc. So there are many dimensions in which we require reforms. And the fourth dimension is important, that is the hierarchical structure of the police in India. So if we look at the hierarchy and the way the police has been organized, then 80% of the people are recruited as constabulary, and constabulary in India, it is highly burdened, but it has less power and more responsibility, due to which there are less career prospects with the constable, the person who is recruited as constable, and thus it leads to the inefficiency in the police system of India. In the year 2006, the Prakash Singh judgment, the Supreme Court had given 7 directives for police reform in India. We will discuss these directives one by one. The first directive was to constitute a state security commission. The second directive was to have a fixed tenure, 2-year tenure for the DGP, that is Director General of Police, the post which is highly politicized. The transfer and the posting is highly politicized in our country. And then Prakash Singh judgment, the Supreme Court said there should be a minimum 2-year tenure for the DGP, 2-year tenure for the Superintendent of Police and the station house officers, and a separate investigation and the law and order function has to be maintained. So in India, the police does both the function. It maintains the law and order, and it as well as investigates the crime and other matters. However, investigation is a highly specialized function for which the police personnel would need a separate training. But in present situation they perform both the functions. So therefore in the Prakash Singh judgment, the Supreme Court had directed that the two functions should be separate. The judgment in the Supreme Court in the judgment has also talked about the establishment of the Police Establishment Board, which will be responsible for the transfer and the posting of the top officials. It also talked about setting up of the police complaints authorities at the state and the district level, so as to look into the matter of the excesses done by the police personnel. For example, if you remember the Tamil Nadu custodial death case during the COVID-19 lockdown, and the Supreme Court had also directed for the establishment of the National Security Commission at the central level. So these were the 7 directives, and a very important directive when it comes to the police reform. So if a question in the mains examination is asked about the reforms in the police system, then these 7 directives and the Prakash Singh judgment of the year 2006 needs to be mentioned. There was one more judgment which is known as the D.K. Basu judgment, in which the Supreme Court had talked about the custody of the accused and how it should be presented before the first class magistrate at the district court or the session court. Now the writer wants to say that the attendance was required. However, if the attendance is missed by the topmost official, it reflects the lack of seriousness in the matter of governance affecting the public order and the crime. The debate, however, now over the Tamil Nadu police, the way the Tamil Nadu handled the Coimbatore blast case, which happened recently, which is a possible terror-related case, and it was fit to be transferred to the NIA. Now, if you see that in India, NIA is responsible for the terror-related cases. However, the DGP of the Tamil Nadu police said that they need to conduct the preliminary investigation before it hands over the case to the NIA. So after the 2008 Mumbai blast case, NIA was established, which was then amended in the year 2019, and this is the central investigation agency for the counter-terrorism, for the cases related to the terrorism, and it is highly specialized and highly fit for the cases. And the another agency which is always a bone of contention between the union and the state government is the CBI. So if you remember that recently the Andhra Pradesh and the state of Maharashtra and the state of Bengal had withdrawn their general consent to the CBI. Therefore, CBI is not able to register any new cases in the state. So if you follow our daily current affairs, then we had talked about the general and the specific consent when we were talking about the CBI. So general consent means the state government has given the consent to the CBI, so to come and investigate matters into the respective or the concerned state, and the specific consent is given to the specific cases related with the state governments, in which the CBI is handed over the investigation, and for which the CBI needs to enter the state for the investigation and other related purpose of the case. However, the writer says that the way the case of Coimbatore blast was handled by the Tamil Nadu police, it seemed unprofessional. It seemed unprofessional. There was a delay in handing over the case to the National Investigation Agency. So this is the case that writer describes here, that how the DGP of the Tamil Nadu police abruptly abandoned the investigation, and they had to do the preliminary investigation before they hand over the case to the NIA, etc., etc. So policing in India is a highly politicized system, and this politicization needs to be reduced, and there should be a policing with talent. That is the reason why the former CBI director R.K. Raghavan, he says there should be a policing with talent, and resource sharing should also be there. So the writer is of the opinion that this this exchange of barbs by the two sides, it's quite unfortunate, and it avoids the development and it avoids the reforms that are needed by the policing in India, or by the police system in India. So the writer says, so you see, this is the National Police Academy, which is operated by the central government. All the funds, etc., etc. And National Police Academy is a world class academy. It is a world class academy in Hyderabad for training the IPS officers. Now, our first Home Minister, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, was of the opinion that the All India services are of utmost importance for the unification of our country. A newly independent India, which was formed by unifying or merging various princely states, and considering the huge diversity in India, the All India services are fit for the governance of the country. So if you remember, there used to be a service called Imperial Civil Services before the independence. However, there were some talks in the Constituent Assembly to abandon this system altogether. However, the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, our first Home Minister, argued in favor of keeping the All India services, and he also addressed the first batch of the All India Services officer, that is the IS All India Administrative Officers in the Labasna on 21st of April, which is also celebrated as the IS Officers Day or Indian Civil Service Day. So therefore, the credit of keeping the All India service and the country unified and intact goes to our first Home Minister, that is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So if the National Police Academy in Hyderabad is operated by the central government, then why not central or the union government have a say in the policing matter, either in the state and country as a whole? So this is the opinion of the writer. So the writer talks about the Patel's vision, that means the vision of our first Home Minister. So the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel would have felt dismayed over the current situation, that how there is a lack of seriousness in the matter of policing between the union and the state government, and how the great value which was emphasized on the professionalism on the IPS and the IAS service. There are three All India services: the IPS, the IAS, and the Indian Forest Services, not the Foreign Service. The IRS and the Indian Foreign Services, etc. These are all the central services. So there are three All India services: the forest, administrative, and policing. And they are considered as highly professional and specialized services for the set purpose. So the writer wants to say that our first Home Minister, he was under immense pressure from the various quarters to disband both the Indian Civil Services and the Indian Police. But as a distinguished and the astute visionary, he was steadfast in his belief, and subsequently there were many events which proved him right, that despite all their fault, the two All India services, that the Indian Police Services and the Indian Administrative Services, they are a cementing force, and they have greatly contributed to establishing the nationally accepted standards of governance, especially in the area of law and order. So this is the figure talks about the responsibility of state and centre with respect to the police. The state is responsible for the maintenance of police or public order, police and prisons. Criminal law is in the concurrent list, and the centre is responsible for protecting the state and from external and internal disturbances, and that is the reason by the Central Armed Police Forces, CAPF, and the Central Reserve CRPF, the Central Reserve Police Force, are deployed in the disturbed areas. They are deployed in the disturbed areas, and no consent is taken from the state government. Taken from the state government before deploying the Central Reserve Force and Central Armed Forces. So central police forces are deployed. There are institutions related with the intelligence, investigation, and police training that are operated by the central government. So these two functions, they are merging functions, and they are not completely exclusionary functions. They are mutually interdependent functions. They are not mutually exclusive functions. So the writer is of the opinion that even after the passage of these 75 years, this conflict between the Ministry of Home Affairs, because the police is under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the state over the utilizing the talent of the IPS officers and sharing of the resource available in the state, it is distressing and it is of no relevance. Both sides have to be partially blamed for this unfortunate state of the police affairs. So there were several committees passed constituted in the past for the police reforms. The important committees that you should remember is the Rubero Committee in the year 1998. Rubero, he was the former IPS officer, and the National Police Commission in the year 1997, Padmana Committee, Malimatha Committee, and the Prakash Singh versus the Union of India judgment, and the Police Act Drafting Act, the Police Act Drafting Act, and the Model Police Act. You should remember this judgment, and you should also remember the 2011 D.K. Basu judgment of the Supreme Court. So these two judgments are important. You should remember the Rubero, Padmana and Malimatha committee. These three committees and these two judgments are of utmost importance when it comes to the police reforms. And Amitav Roy committee which was recently constituted. This is Justice Amitav Roy committee for the prison reforms. So these are some important committees that you can quote in your answers, and it will be highly significant, and it will accentuate the quality of your answer. So the writer is of the opinion that a camaraderie is essential. What does this mean? It means basically a collaborative relationship between the center and the state. Right. So this is what the writer wants to say, and writer is of the opinion that there are certain outfits such as the BSF, the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, and the CSF, etc., which have also worked in tandem with the state police. So writer says that the central force, the paramilitary forces, works in tandem with the state police force. So when we speak of the Assam Rifles, so they are also working in collaboration with the state police. The Indo-Tibetan police, the BSF is working in collaboration with the Punjab police, the J&K police, and the Bangladesh police, etc., etc. Sorry, not Bangladesh, but West Bengal police. So the writer says that it makes sense that the Ministry of Home Affairs and the state police departments of the respective state should not squabble, but they should explore their best to forge a strong camaraderie. So this is what the writer wants to say. So the writer also says that the recent, this frequent spats between the center and the state over the CBI, because many of the states recently withdrew their general consent given to the CBI. So again, the writer says that both parties have to share the blame. The basic point that has been ignored is that crime and bureaucratic corruption have the interstate ramification. Only a national agency can bring in a much needed and wider perspective. So this insensitive action by a few states to withdraw the consent to the CBI to function in a state, it smacks of politics. That means the CBI is also politicized. So this is what the writer wants to say. The functioning of the CBI is politicized. And vindictiveness, which diminishes the fight against the police servant graft. What is lacking? Now let's see what are the lacking. First is the distribution of the power. Police is a state subject under the distribution of power, that is Article 242, which is laid down in the Constitution and Schedule 7 of the Constitution. But that does not matter. That does not mean that union government will have no say in the matter, because there are many articles, and our Constitution has a centralizing tendency which is borrowed from the Canada model, right? So the training and technology are two areas which center does. So this can greatly contribute to the sharpening of the police ability and combat terrorism and other major public disturbances. The writer says this Sardar Vallabhbhai National Police Academy in Hyderabad, it is a world-class institution, and which has and the professional excellence which has generously available to state police forces. So petty squabbling reduces the exchange of ideas, and it also goes against the accentuating the police response to the difficult situation that require the police assistance. So that is the reason why we need a political leadership that does not get bogged down in petty differences, but they promote a free exchange of talent and resources between the New Delhi and the state. So there is no point in blaming the DGP if he or she does not respond to a situation in a professional manner when the petty squabbling between the union squabbling between the union and the state government affects the functionality and the professionalism of the police. So the DGP looks up to the Chief Minister for the direction if the latter is driven by the political consideration and gives unprofessional instructions. There is very little that the DGP can do, that is Director General of Police. So despite all that the Supreme Court of India has done to insulate the Chief of Police from the political caprice, the truth is that, according to the writer, that DGP is perilously praised with the Chief Minister and his or her party men. It is lamentable, according to the writer, that the public opinion in the country has not asserted itself to impart a better sense of policing at all levels of the government. So according to the writer, he says that I do not foresee any change in this unfortunate situation in the years ahead. So writer here ends the article in a little pessimistic note because due to the current situation. However, as a civil servant, we should always be motivated, and we should always be optimistic in our view that despite all the conflict and all the petty squabbling and etc. that we see, that police in India is of highly significance, whether we talk about the governance or we talk about the law and order situation. So the police reforms are very much needed, and it is the public opinion as well as the political leadership which is going to drive the police reforms for the betterment of the better preparedness of the police, for their better training and for the better maintenance of the law and order in the country. So that's it for today. I hope you've understood this article. Thank you so much for watching Tarunayas. Have a nice day.